And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we are looking at round two for the Washington Commanders. We're going to be doing a live reaction as the Washington Commanders are set to pick here very soon. And so before we go ahead and jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting many wide receivers for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. So make sure you hit that subscribe, you hit that like button, you join the Washington Commanders Insider family. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it as we are getting ready for the Washington Commanders to once again pick here in round number 2. And so we'll bring up what has been going on in the NFL draft since yesterday. And so starting off with the first pick in the draft, or in the second round of the draft, Carson Swissinger out of UCLA. And so we talked about him being a linebacker that could possibly sneak into the first round. And so I like the fact that, the Cleveland Browns went in that direction. I think it was a pretty good pick here. So then we got Jaden Higgins. We talked about him, Iowa State. He went next to the Texans. Nick Emenwara, another safety that we've talked about here. Quinshawn Junkins, another good running back here out of Ohio State. And then you got Mason Taylor, LSU tight end, going over to the Jets. Got JT from Ohio State. We talked about him being an edge, going at pick 45 over to the Colts. I think that was a solid pickup as well. Another pick of notable here in round 2, you got Femi out of UCLA. We talked about him as well. Maybe the Washington Commanders would have some interest in him, but it looks like that he goes to the Tennessee Titans. Nick Scordon, Texas A&M went before him. So we're starting to see a lot more defense edge rushers go. Trey Harris out of Ole Miss went to the Chargers as well just a couple picks ago. Then we have the Raiders, who just picked up Jack Beck, wide receiver out of TCU. So solid pick right there. And so, again, we got the Ravens coming up. We got the Denver Broncos, and then we got the Washington Commanders coming up here. And so we'll be talking about the live reaction as we're just waiting for the Washington Commanders to pick again here in round 2. And so if you're not familiar with what the Washington Commanders did in round 1, they picked up an offensive tackle, and I think many people think maybe it could have been one of the better offensive tackles in the draft in Josh Connerly Jr. And so, look, I think that was a huge pickup in round 1. Again, I think that, we got a player that I really do feel like that just for the future for the Washington Commanders, when you're talking about the foundation for the Washington Commanders, he's definitely that guy. And so, once again, got him round 1, got a chance to look at Adam Peters, talk about him in the presser. They were talking about just how impressed they were with him, not only as a player, but just as a person. So super excited to see that. But again, we are waiting for this round 2 selection for the Washington Commanders, just going back and reflecting a little bit here on Josh Connerly Jr. I talked about this earlier on the other video on the channel, talking about how Todd McShay had Josh Connerly Jr. as a top 3, maybe offensive tackle, and that he went to the Washington Commanders here in the first round. Really huge. One of the things that they talk about was his ability to get to the second level, which I think is going to be huge for us, especially when you're talking about opening up the running game, because I think that, look, if the Washington Commanders stay with the same running backs, which is fine if they go with Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, you need to get a player that is going to be nasty and get to the second level and kind of open some things up down the field for you. And I think for a team that relatively did well, I think as far as not, taking sacks, one of the things that is talked about, which is a key stat, was just the pressure rate that you saw with the Washington Commanders. So I think that he's going to be a player that could certainly kind of minimize that pressure. We'll see what happens if he does ultimately get a job as far as being a starter day one. So I think he's going to be a rotational piece, maybe out of the gate, but to be a starter, that's something that we'll find out. One of the things that Adam Peters talks about is just how everybody has to compete at every position. And so we'll find out, if he's able to compete his way into that type of position. But loved his press conference, loved what he had to say. I love the fact that he talks about, look, wants to win, coming from an Oregon program that really it hasn't lost very much. And so you love that coming into a winning program. And I think that, man, it's only going to get better. But once again, we're talking a little bit about yesterday's pick 29, Josh Connolly Jr., offensive tackle out of Oregon. We're just waiting now for pick number 2 for the Washington Commanders. The Raiders just made a selection here. We got a couple more picks until the Washington Commanders go. We got the Ravens, we got the Denver Broncos, and then it'll be the Washington Commanders. And so we briefly went over some of the key picks here in round 2. I think another pick that I thought was interesting is that you see Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame, goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look, we went against them in the playoffs. I think that was one of their probably weaknesses there, was just that the corner position. And so, for them to get Benjamin Morrison, I think maybe a lot of people would say he maybe could have been possibly a first-round selection had he not maybe had a hip injury. And so we'll see what he does here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but just wanted to note that we did talk about him. Just kind of going through. I like what the Bengals did too as well. I think that now they've gone defense. It makes me wonder, is there a Trey Hendrickson deal coming? Because they did go out and go defensive minded these first 2 rounds. But again, the speculation is that they're going to try to get a deal done for him. So we'll see that. I think another thing that's notable as well is that Donovan Izaraku, right? He's been a player that has been just in a ton of mock trades, going to the Washington Commanders, now going to our rival here, the Dallas Cowboys. And so I think if you're a Cowboys fan, you like the fact that he's with Mike Parsons. But, man, I wish we could have got him. But Donovan Izaraku, he'll be going to the Cowboys, so wanted to note that. Again, we got TJ Sanders, defensive tackle, going over to the Buffalo Bills. They've gone defense the last 2 days. They went out and got Maxwell Harrington out of Kentucky, cornerback. I think he was the fastest out there at the 4.2. And so they go corner, and then they come back and go defensive tackle there. Luther Burton III, if we did not mention that, going to the Bears. Looks like that they're certainly going in a direction of being offensive-minded. So we'll see how that goes with Caleb Williams. Travion Henderson, right, is another player that I think a lot of people were wanting to see the Washington Commanders take a chance on here in round 2, going over to the New England Patriots. I think that that's a solid pickup as well. And so, again, just a lot of players that we've been talking about just maybe falling to the Commanders, maybe in the first or second round, have already come off the board. We'll see what's going to happen. We're just waiting for these next 2 picks as we are into a commercial break right now, waiting for these next 2. And so anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. If you're out there checking out the channel, which direction you think the Washington Commanders will go. Because it's clear that they're trying to really build around Jaden Daniels. I know it wasn't, a wide receiver, running back, anything like that, but still, this was a huge piece. Again, I think with Josh Connolly Jr., you're looking at a player that, again, is going to be with him for the next, 6, 7, 8 seasons, however long it is, and you can really build upon that. And so get ready to go ahead and throw up the draft selections here in round 2 right now so you guys can take a look at that. Again, we had Jack Beck, TCU, just went over to the Raiders. And so it looks like we're back from commercial break. Wow, just looking at Mel Kiper's best available. Mike Green is still out there. Interesting. Still got Sanders, Shanu Sanders, quarterback. He's still available. Obviously, we don't need that. Trey Amos, cornerback. And then looks like Jared Wilson out of Georgia available. So that's another player I could see the Washington Commanders going out and getting, was Mike Green. We did talk about him. Like the fact that, look, he led the nation in sacks. He also, too, coming with that wrestling background. So I think that, look, he uses that often to win on the defensive end. And so we'll see what happens here. So looks like the pick is coming up here for the Ravens as we'll see what they're going to do here in a moment. So the Ravens are picking right now. We are waiting for the Washington Commanders to come up here momentarily. So again, I think that the Washington Commanders, look, there's several players that we've talked about that are still available that the Washington Commanders could go after. I wonder if we see a player that they had maybe met with, in their top 30. Is this a player that's going to come off the board? Is it going to be a player that's just going to come out of left field? We'll see what happens here. So looks like the Ravens are picking right now, and so the Ravens go with Mike Green. Okay, so the Ravens take Mike Green. Mike Green going to the Ravens. Just talked about Mike Green. Wow. So he actually, and that's interesting in the sense because I think he's from the area, man, and he goes to the Baltimore Ravens. So that's huge. Mike Green going to the Ravens. Wow. All right, so here we go. I mean, we got another pick to go, and then we'll find out what the Washington Commanders are going to do. There's another player that I thought maybe could be a fit with the Washington Commanders at edge, going to the Baltimore Ravens now. So we are waiting on the Denver Broncos, and then we will be talking about the Washington Commanders picking at pick 61. Just make sure that you hit that subscribe, you hit that like, you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. We also have day one where we did the live reaction there of the first pick in the draft for the Washington Commanders, or their first round pick in the draft. And so, yeah. But, man, I think it's a solid pick, man, with Mike Green. I really do. Yeah. So just waiting for this next pick as we are waiting for the Denver Broncos to make this next pick so we can get to the Washington Commanders, guys. And so Mike Green off of the board with the Baltimore Ravens, pick 59. So looks like we got somebody walking to the stage right now for the Denver Broncos. So pick 60 looks like it is in, waiting for the pick for the Broncos to come up, and then we're going to be talking about the Washington Commanders. Pick 60. Here we go. Man, got to get past all these hyping up the crowds and get to the pick. So it looks like RJ Harvey, running back out of UCF, excuse me, going pick 60 to the Denver Broncos. Yeah. I think it was a solid pick too. I think he was solid as well. I want to say that I think that they had a good game against Colorado. So this is not a bad pick for the Denver Broncos. But nevertheless, pick 61, waiting on the Washington Commanders here, seeing what they're going to do. Super excited to talk about who the Washington Commanders are going to pick up. If you did not get a chance to see round one, the Washington Commanders went with Josh Connerly Jr., offensive tackle out of Oregon. This was pick number one. We are waiting right now for the second round pick here. So Washington Commanders could also trade. So we'll find out. So they got Jahdae Barron and then also RJ Harvey. Not bad for the Denver Broncos. Not a bad draft so far. So waiting for the Washington Commanders here. We got comments. Trey Amos. So Dexter Reeves wants Trey Amos, and I just gave him the star. I love it. Three-time, baby. Tell him about it. Three-time Super Bowl champion. Trey Amos. My bad. So I'm on a little bit of a delay. Trey Amos. I just wanted to see it come across the stage. Trey Amos. I love it. Well, all right. So let's look at Trey Amos. Physical press corner with enough length to get his hands up to reroute receivers. You love that first and foremost. We definitely want that. Compared to a Pat Surtain. Wow. I love that. Yeah. Man, I just wonder, can he come up in his run support here? Let's see if they talk about that. Has the frame to win 50-50 balls. Love that. Reaches to break up passes and times it well. Yeah. Mm, okay. All right, guys. So I'm just listening to Lewis Reddick talking about him. He's the guy that definitely is all about that. I think he played defense. If I'm not mistaken, might have been a corner, but just really one of the things they talk about is his physicality. You can definitely see the range. I like the fact that you see the patience too with him as well. Talking about how the Washington Commanders need another guy that is going to be super confident on the outside. So we love that. I think it's a defense that really we didn't see him give up a whole bunch of big plays like that. But I think that when you get a corner like this, you feel very good, man, because you're going to go against, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. These are players that you're going to be seeing twice a year. So you need to have somebody else on the outside. I love what we did with Mikey Sanders still. And I think the biggest question right now in the back half of the defense is what are we going to get from Marshawn Lattimore? Do we get the Marshawn Lattimore that really had been dominant with the Saints? Do we get the Marshawn Lattimore that we saw last season? But I like the direction that we have here. And so I want to see some more as far as will he come down and run support, because I think that that is probably one of the biggest issues that, just we need to fix with the Washington Commanders. I think is just being able to slow down the run. But I did love what we did in the back half of the defense. And so I think that this certainly adds to what we're doing. I hope that he's able to get in and maybe be a starter from day one. We'll see what happens. Does that mean that now Mikey Sanders still is a guy that moves more to the inside, and then we have those three out there? Curious to see what he's going to translate like. But it looks like that he is a physical corner that is comparable to Patrick Surtain. So the Patrick Surtain that plays for the Denver Broncos. And so you love that, the physicality that you're going to get. And I like that you could probably just put him on an Allen and he can win over there. So we'll see what happens with the Washington Commanders. We'll be talking a little bit more what they're going to do as the rounds go along, but definitely wanted to go live. If you are not, just getting or tuning in, the Washington Commanders pick a corner here in round two. In the first selection, we went offensive tackle and Josh Connerly Jr. So now we go defense. And so still we'll see what happens with the Washington Commanders. Do they go and gear more towards the offense moving forward? Do we continue to go towards the defense? I did talk about the fact that several edge rushers that were in mock drafts had went already in the draft today. And so it'll be interesting to see if the Washington Commanders go that way. Can't wait to see what Adam Peters has to say about this young man. But, it looks like that we are getting a good 50-50 guy that, he's going to be able to time his jumps on the defensive, the end of the football or defensive end of the football when he's getting thrown at. And so he's going to have that patience where I think what that translates to is that if you're getting into kind of that hand battle as the ball is kind of going up in the air, instead of panicking and getting grabby and then drawing the flag, you're able to hold composure and you're able to actually make a good break on the football or a good pass breakup. And so I love that he doesn't get flustered, I guess, in those type of battles, because that's probably going to happen when you get into the league. And so it's 6'1", 195 physical corner here for the Washington Commanders. So anyway, make sure that you press the like, you press the subscribe, you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football daily. Again, and if you go to the channel right now, there is a video up reflecting on yesterday's draft pick at pick 29. So make sure you hit that, guys, as the second round concludes. We'll be back talking about the next pick for the Washington Commanders. And so as we always say, go Commanders out there. I will see you guys on the next one. All right, man. Peace.